When most people picture California, they naturally envision sun-drenched coastlines or the towering granite faces of Yosemite. But if you head into the far northern reaches of the state, the entire geographic and environmental reality changes. This is one of the most sparsely populated, isolated regions in California, boasting the lowest density of humans per square mile across the state. Here, the landscape is defined by two heavily contrasting environments sitting right up against one another: the steep, high Cascade Range and the high altitude, semi arid volcanic plain known as the Modoc Plateau. Nearly this entire territory is blanketed by thick successions of late Cenozoic volcanic rocks. It is a domain built entirely by active, deep planetary fire. As 19th century geologist Clarence Edward Dutton perfectly captured back in 1880, each volcano is an independent machine, cooking as it were its special dish. Today, we are going to dissect how these underground machines function, look at the giant tectonic engine driving them off our coast, and explore the spectacular landscapes they leave behind. Hey everyone, welcome back. Today, we are unpacking Chapter 6, which focuses heavily on the raw power of young volcanoes. Now, when geologists say young, remember our perspective on time. We do not mean last week. We mean volcanic activity that occurred within the late Cenozoic, spanning the last few million years, thousands of years ago, or in the case of places like Mount Lassen, right within the 20th century. To map out this northern region, we have to look at those two highly contrasting provinces that sit right side by side. On the west, we have the steep, towering, composite stratovolcanoes of the high Cascade Range. Right next door to the east, the terrain opens up to the Modoc Plateau, a massive elevated volcanic plain sitting at an average elevation of about 4,500 feet. So we're looking at this and then this. Depending on the underlying magma chemistry, temperature, and how easily dissolved volcanic gases can escape, these subterranean plumbing systems construct four distinct types of features: linear fissure vents, broad shield volcanoes, steep-sided stratovolcanoes, and thick sluggish lava domes. Now let's jump over to the map graphics to see how the primary subduction engine drives all of this. The Cascade Range forms an Andean-style volcanic arc that runs roughly 800 kilometers, about 500 miles, stretching from British Columbia in the north down into its southern terminus in Northern California. This arc is generated by a major plate collision happening just off our coast. Out in the ocean, the oceanic Juan de Fuca plate is sliding eastward, crashing directly into the thick, buoyant North American continent. Because the oceanic plate is colder and denser, it gets forced downward into the hot mantle at the subduction zone. As the subducting slab plunges into the earth, it carries down hydrated minerals and ocean water trapped in its pores. At deep depths, intense heat and pressure squeeze this water out of the slab. The water rises up into the hot mantle wedge directly above it, lowering the melting point of the mantle rock. This process triggers partial melting, generating magmas that are uniquely rich in sodium and potassium, a signature known as the alkaline trend. This buoyant, molten rock climbs through the crust, gathering in magma chambers that feed a complex network of volcanic vents at the surface. Now, the two big volcanic giants at our end of the chain are Mount Shasta and the Lassen Peak, and they are both incredibly dominant forces. Shasta stands as California's biggest volcano, towering over the landscape at an elevation of 14,179 feet. Lassen is a bit shorter at 10,457 feet, but it is still a massive landmark that stands out completely against the surrounding terrain. However, they have completely different personalities. Mount Shasta is a highly complex composite volcano made of overlapping cones built up from alternating basaltic and andesitic and dacitic lavas over hundreds of thousands of years. It is so massive that it easily holds more volume than any other single peak in the Cascade chain. It combines four distinct overlapping cones that merge together, and right on its western flank sits a highly prominent secondary peak called Shastina. Then you look just south of Shasta and you hit Lassen Peak. Lassen is completely different. It is not a classic cone. It is a massive plug dome made of sticky silica-rich dacite lava that was too thick to flow away, so it poured just out of the ground, cooled, and piled up into a jagged lump. And what makes Lassen fascinating is that it was built directly on the ruins of a much older, shattered giant. About 350,000 years ago, a massive stratovolcano named Mount Tehama stood where Lassen is today. It was a giant standing more than 1,000 feet taller than Lassen Peak stands now. Tehama was built from alternating layers of andesite lava flows and explosive pyroclastics. Eventually, the volcano emptied its main interior magma chambers and collapsed entirely inward on its own throat, forming a massive caldera ring roughly 2 miles wide. If you explore Lassen Volcanic National Park today, landmarks like Brokoff Mountain are not independent hills. They're simply the surviving jagged walls of that ancient broken caldera rim. About 27,000 years ago, a new phase of activity began when sticky dacite lava pushed up through the northern rim of that collapsed crater, slowly piling up to form the summit of Lassen Peak we see today. Additional smaller dacite domes like Kiosk Crags grew just north of Lassen much later. Lassen sat relatively quiet for thousands of years, heavily sculpted by Ice Age glaciers, until May of 1914, when the mountain suddenly woke up with a series of massive steam explosions. Now, before we look at the historic destruction logs, we need to master the volcanic vocabulary of how these systems actually erupt. When a volcano behaves explosively, it shatters rock and molten magma into pieces. Geologists call these fragments pyroclasts, which comes directly from the Greek word pyro, meaning fire, and klas, meaning broken fragments. Pyroclastic debris comes in a wide variety of sizes, and their physical differences tell us exactly how violent the explosion was. If you look closely at these samples from the textbook in figure 6.3, you can see the scale. The smallest material is volcanic ash or dust, consisting of tiny microscopic shards of jagged volcanic glass and shattered rock smaller than 2 mm across. Moving up in size, we find pebble-sized volcanic fragments between 2 and 64 mm called lapilli, and finally we have volcanic bombs. These are massive blobs of incandescent semi-molten lava blasted straight out of the volcano's throat that spin and cool in mid-flight, giving them distinctive streamlined aerodynamic shapes before they slam into the ground. When massive eruptions eject columns of these materials into the stratosphere, it can completely block out global sunlight, altering world climate for years. The most terrifying and deadly of all explosive hazards is the pyroclastic flow, or nui ardente, glowing cloud. These are superheated, avalanche-like cloud of toxic gas, volcanic ash, and rock dust that can sweep down slopes at speeds up to 700 kilometers per hour. That's 450 miles per hour, with internal temperatures typically around 1000 degrees Celsius, 1850 degrees Fahrenheit. When these superheated deposits settle and cool, they fuse together into a dense rock layer called welded tuff or ignimbrite. But a volcano doesn't even need to be actively erupting to unleash a disaster. If hot volcanic materials mixes with water, either from heavy torrential rains or from the rapid melting of alpine glaciers and snowpacks, it forms a volcanic mudflow known as a lahar. Lahars have the heavy, crushing consistency of wet concrete. They move at speeds greater than 48 kilometers per hour, 30 miles per hour, acting like a giant conveyor belt that can effortlessly pick up, carry, and bury massive boulders, cars, semi-trucks, and entire town. By May of 1915, red-hot blobs of dacite lava were oozing onto the upper slopes of Lassen. On May 19, that intense magmatic heat rapidly melted the mountain's heavy winter snowpack, unleashing a devastating lahar. Lassen's mud flow surged down valleys for miles, sweeping up massive boulders, including one famous 20-foot rock called Hot Rock, miles down the mountain valleys. 3 days later, on May 22, 1915, the mountain unleashed its main paroxysmal blast. A column of ash shot 40,000 feet straight into the stratosphere. A massive lateral blast of hot gas and ash flattened trees for miles around. Winds carried the volcanic dust over 200 miles eastward into Nevada. Along with the historic 1980 lateral blast of Mount St. Helens, Lassen stands as one of the only major volcanic eruptions witnessed in the lower 48 states in modern times. Now, even though the major eruption stopped by 1917, the volcanic plumbing beneath Lassen is still incredibly hot and highly active. The whole park features roaring stream vents, boiling springs, and bubbling mud pots that reek of rotten egg hydrogen sulfide gas. The most famous of these active areas is a place called Bumpus Hell, named after an early miner named Kendall Van Hook Bumpus, who explored the area back in 1860s. Bumpus was showing a local newspaper editor around and stepped directly onto a thin, fragile crust of earth covering a boiling mud pot. The crust broke and his leg plunged straight into the boiling acid slurry, scalding him so severely that it eventually had to be amputated. When he warned others later, he called it a living hell, which is how we got the name Bumpus Hell. It is a vivid reminder that when you visit these parks, you stick to the boardwalks. The ground out there is literally boiling. Now let us travel east, crossing over from the steep Cascade Peaks into a completely different geologic province, the Modoc Plateau. The Modoc Plateau is dominated by late Cenozoic basaltic lavas. While the Cascades feature tall, steep, explosive stratovolcanoes, the Modoc Plateau is built by massive Rothschild volcanoes. The king of these structures is the Medicine Lake Shield volcano, situated just northeast of Mount Shasta. If you look at it from a distance, it does not look like a traditional mountain peak. It shows a remarkably low dome, gentle shield shape, but it is the single largest volcano by volume in the entire Cascade Arc. Because basaltic lava contains less silica, it is highly fluid, hot, and thin. Instead of blowing up, this lava quietly oozed out of massive cracks and fissures, spreading across the landscape like syrup to form two distinct surface textures: ropey, wrinkled Paoyoi lavas on the smooth flanks and sharp, jagged, blocky lavas. When these thick basalt sheets cool and contract slowly, they split into uniform vertical columns, leaving behind magnificent geometric grids of hexagonal columnar joints. Because the basaltic lavas of the Modoc Plateau flow so easily, they insulate themselves by freezing on top while remaining molten interior cones. When the upstream lava source eventually shuts off and drains out, it leaves behind giant, empty underground tunnels known as lava tubes, which heavily honeycomb Lava Bed National Monument. Inside these conduits, you can find delicate rock icicles called lavacicles, formed as molten lava dripped from ceilings right as the tube was draining out. Structural ceiling collapses create dramatic double skylights that form natural rock spans, like the iconic lava bridge at Tickner Cave. Deep cave systems like Skull Cave are so perfectly insulated that they trap freezing winter air year-round, generating massive floors of permanent ice deep underground. What makes this landscape truly legendary is how this subterranean geomorphology shaped human history. During the Modoc War of 1872-73, a small band of Native Americans led by Captain Jack held off a vastly superior US Army force for months. They didn't need to build fortifications. They simply utilized Captain Jack's stronghold, a natural defensive labyrinth formed entirely by deep lava tubes, natural trenches, and jagged basalt ridges. When you look in Northern California, you're looking at a landscape whose geological story is still being actively written. every lava tube conduit at lava beds, every boiling mud pot at Bumpus Hell, and every overlapping cone on Mount Shasta is a direct reminder that the plate subduction engine of our coast is still running strong. This week, I want you to log into our online course module and focus closely on the core contrasts we covered today. The major structural differences between explosive silica rich stratovolcanoes like Shasta and Lassen and wide fluid basaltic shield systems like Medicine Lake. Complete your weekly chapter quiz, finish the assigned textbook readings, and remember, the landscape out there isn't just scenery, it's a textbook waiting to be read. I will see you all in our next lecture.